Hello, today I'm going to work on the Queries 3 West Virginia Senate problem. We will cover using grouping in a query, using an immediate if function, how to set criteria on fields that aren't displayed in the query results, and how to use an outer join in a query. This assignment requires the Windows version of Microsoft Office. You will either need Windows and Access, or you will need to have the Mac virtual machine and Access installed. You'll want to download the Senate database from your instructor's website, extract it, and proceed to the next step. Okay, so I'm going to extract, put it on my desktop, and I'm going to go ahead and open it. Now, we're going to create separate queries to provide the information requested below. You need to name each query after the step in which it appears. For example, query step 5A is going to be query 5A. You do want to run your queries to test them. Make sure they will display all and only the records you would expect to appear. So the first one, we're going to use grouping in a query, and we're going to use the immediate if function. The first sentence tells us what we're going to do. In this case, we're going to want to calculate the number of candidates for each party, or each party fielded for each election. That's going to help tell us whether the party can take control of the West Virginia Senate. So in this first one, we want to create a query listing for each year, the full name of each political party, the number of candidates for that party, and an indication if the party contested all available seats. So what we need to do is go ahead and click Create. We want to hit Query Design. We want to click Tables. And in this case, what we want to do is look to see what tables we need. We definitely are going to need the parties table, and we're going to need the candidates table. Let's make sure those are related. And then let's see if we have all the fields we need. We may need to add an additional table. So we need the year. We need the full name of each political party. And then this is where grouping comes in. He asks for the number of candidates from that party. We don't have a field that tells us that. So what we need to do is turn totals on. And in this case, that adds another row here that's called total. And I am going to add the candidate's first name and ask that it be counted here. So for every year, subdivided by party name, we're going to get a total of the number of candidates running. My advice to you is at this point, before you add the calculated field, to go ahead and run and see if you get the number of records you're expecting. In my case, I was expecting 31. I don't see any oddness or anything that I need to correct, so I can move on. And in this case, what I'll do is I'll open the builder, and I am going to put the immediate if statement in. I'm going to call this contested all seats, colon, and then I'm going to paste the bit in that I want. The way this works is this is an immediate if statement. It would like us to count the number of candidates running in each district. If that equals 17, it's going to display true. If not, it's going to display false. I go ahead and hit OK. And I need to change this per the instructions to expression because it has a calculation in there. And he doesn't ask for anything else. So I run it. I get 31. And in this case, in 2000, the Democratic Party contested all the seats. It was true. In 2000, the Republican Party only contested 8 of the seats, so it's false. Right? So in other words, all 17 districts the Democratic Party contested, the Republican in 2000 only contested 8. So I am going to want to right-click, choose to save, and we're going to call this query 6, I think, B. Or no, 5B. 5A, goodness. Close that up. The second one, we're going to set criteria on fields not displayed in the query results. So in other words, here what we want to do is we're going to want to only display records for members of the Democratic or Republican parties, but we don't want to actually display the party name itself. So in this case, we'll just go create.
I found this on the web.
And we are going to want to click Query Design. Forgive my watch. And then we begin to figure out what we need. He says to create a new query listing the redistricting cycle, election year, candidate first name, last name, amount received, and votes received. So since candidates is mentioned, let's start there. And let's look and see if I'm missing anything. I don't have redistricting cycle. And I do have the election year. Let's take a look. Let's put down elections. Let's check. Yes, they are related to each other. And we have redistricting cycles. So I think we're good. But honestly, when you work your way through these queries, sometimes you're going to get the right tables and sometimes not. So you need to sort of analyze what you have. You're going to want to look back at the notes from the instructions and just match things up. In this case, we're asked to start with redistricting cycle. Then we're asked for election year. We're asked for the candidate's first name. We're asked for the candidate's last name. Oh, and I put them in the wrong order. So I'm going to click, move that over. You always want to get the order right because you're working from left to right when you're doing sorts or totals. We want the amount raised and the votes received. And in this case, we're asked to work with the, to only display Democrats or Republicans. So I could add the parties table and type Democratic Party or Republican Party as criteria, but since I'm not actually asked to display that, in fact, it's not desirable, I'm going to use party abbreviation, and here I'm just going to type DEM or GOP. And you notice when I tab over, it puts DEM, which is the abbreviation for the Democratic Party, and GOP, Grand Old Party, for the Republican Party in quotation marks. I believe this is going to work. So let's run it. We've got 233 records, and yes, we are in good shape. So I think we need to save query 5B. Close it up. Now, we want to use an outer join in a query here, and we want to calculate the number of candidates from each party. We want to create a new query that lists each party name and the number of candidates from that party, and your results have to include all the parties, even if they had no candidates. So here we run into a problem because there is one party that has no records in the, they didn't run any candidates for state senate. They might have run a candidate for governor, they might have run a candidate for House of Delegates, but they didn't run any for state senate, and that presents us a problem. And let's take a look at that. So this is definitely a totals query, or I believe it is. I shouldn't say definitively. But we want parties, and we want candidates, and we want to make sure that they're related. Yes, they are. So let's throw the party name down. We're going to throw the candidate's first name down, and we're going to count that. And I'm going to run. And you'll see here that I only have 7 records, and I need 8. Well, from what I've told you, we have a party, it's the Natural Law Party, that's in the parties table, but they don't have any corresponding records in the candidates table. So the way this relationship is set up, if you click on it, then right-click on it, and pick Join Properties, you'll see that it only includes rows where the joined fields are equal. So there has to be a matching record in both tables for this to work. For us to get all of the records out of the parties table, we need to pick option 2, where it says include all the records from parties. Okay. When we do that, our friends in the Natural Law Party show up with 0 candidates. All right. That's how that works. I forgot to do one thing. We were asked to sort by party name, so I'll go back and do that. And we were asked to do it in descending order. And again, it's always good practice to read it or write it afterwards. All right, that is what you do. Let me close this up, and we're going to do query 5C. The final thing we want to look at is SQL, and this is going to demonstrate what happens when you have an extraneous or extra table that you don't need. In this SQL code, we're going to copy it. I have it highlighted already. We're going to go to Create. We're going to go to Query Design, and we're going to dismiss the Add Tables query or Add Tables dialog box, excuse me. Click SQL, and we're going to paste in the SQL code. Then we're going to run that, and we're going to take a look. Now, you'll notice that the numbers are off, and in the instructions, there were actually 39 candidates, for example, in 2014, not 117. What's happening here is we have an extra table. Let's look at the design view. We've used districts. We don't need it. If you notice down here below in the graphical view, we're only using information from the candidates table. So if we take the districts table off, because quite frankly, we don't need it, we hit run, we get a much different view. So here, for example, you see in 2014, we know that because we were told 39 candidates ran, you see 39 candidates there. So that shows you the impact if you add an extra table in that is not needed, what can happen. All right, then we're going to close this, save it, call it Query 5D, and then we're going to go to the database tools and compact and repair the database, and then you can submit it to your instructor. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your instructor and let them know what questions you might have. Thank you, and I hope you found this helpful.